So last night sucked. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. Nothing's going right, Grossi. And today, this morning, we are going to break down last night's game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers. There's a lot to talk about, but let's address the elephant in the room first, and talking about Jordan Love. On the penultimate play of the game, Jordan Love was taken down and fell awkwardly. He was down on the field. He walked off with help from the trainers, sat on the bench, and yeah, we were fearing the absolute worst. Now, there's a lot of Twitter doctors out there and a lot of people on social media, and I'm sure some of them have some great backgrounds, but we just do not know much yet. What we do know as of this morning is not only is Jordan Love and the Packers, they're on their way back to Wisconsin. They'll be landing a little bit before 1 p.m. Eastern, but Tom Pelissero came out and said initial tests showed that Jordan Love's ACL is intact. Does that mean he's out of the woods? Absolutely not, because we still could have MCL stuff. It could still be a season-ending injury, could be a strain, could be a sprain. Nobody knows at this point because more tests need to get done. But the only piece of good news is that his ACL is still intact. So even if he was to miss the season, at least he doesn't have to recover from that. So that's a positive. But I'm just trying to be as optimistic as possible. He did walk off on his own power to the locker room. On top of that, he walked to the flight as well. So I'm just hoping that you're going to see some good news, because that was just a gut punch to end what was a pretty competitive game. And so there will eventually be an update. I'm sure I'll do a video about it later, depending on what the status of Jordan Love is, but hoping for just some good news. And so putting that to the side for right this second, let's actually talk about the game. So the first game being held in South America, in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and the fans were absolutely incredible. The atmosphere was electric. And as I said back in June, when I visited Sao Paulo, I was so excited for diehard Packers fans who have lived in Brazil to finally see their team. And for the most part, it was a competitive game, yet a sloppy one. I know that a lot of people, especially today, are talking about the field conditions, which just didn't seem to be up to par. And that's concerning, one, but two, also a bit confusing, because it was supposed to be the same material that is in Lambeau and also at the Link, in which you're going to have this blend of synthetic grass and real grass. And it just seemed like the field didn't hold up. And again, it needed to pass multiple tests. And it's like what we saw a couple years ago in the Super Bowl when it was played in Arizona, and that did not look good. And it seemed to have similar problems in this game. And that led to a ton of players slipping. And we were just hoping for no major injuries. I know Josh Myers also got banged up with Jordan Love, and I'm not going to blame the field, but I'm also going to say that it did not help with the quality of play that we saw last night. And so focusing on different areas of the team right now, let's talk about the defense, because the defense, a lot of cautious optimism heading into this year. Jeff Hafley, our new defensive coordinator, and this was our opportunity to see that defense firsthand. And starting off was pretty damn good. Forced 2 turnovers, an interception, and a fumble. And unfortunately, the Packers were just unable to capitalize on offense with those 2 attempts. On top of that, they would get another interception on Jalen Hurts. And again, the defense, for the most part, I think did enough to win. However, as things went along, especially in the second half, things just got worse. You had Jair missing tackles in coverage. Quay Walker had a little bit of a tough night. McDuffie had a tough night. And Jalen Hurts at times had the pocket to himself and had all day to throw, which was really disappointing. He finished 20 for 34, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and was sacked twice. A.J. Brown, 5 receptions for over 100 yards and a touchdown, and Devontae Smith, 7 for 84. But what really killed them was that last drive that the Eagles had. It was the fourth quarter drive near the end of the game. It was 16 plays, they went 67 yards, and it took 7 minutes and 25 seconds off the clock. And so while both the Packers and the Eagles had 11 drives apiece, it was time of possession that went in the Eagles' favor, even though a bunch of the other stats would actually benefit the Packers. And from a defensive standpoint, you love that there's 3 turnovers, because Hafley has expressed, hey, not only do we want to get after the quarterback, but we want to force those turnovers, which they did. Unfortunately, the offense couldn't capitalize a bunch of those times. But the real disappointment, of course, was the rushing defense, in which Saquon Barkley tore it up. And we knew this was going to be a problem because the Eagles are a very good rushing team. I mean, hell, the last time that they played them, they ran over 300 yards on us. But Saquon carried 24 times for over 100 yards, had 2 touchdowns, and also had a receiving touchdown, which is just not a great look. And I know there's a lot of doom and gloom about the defense right this second, but the Eagles are a good football team. The Packers had a total of 414 yards, and the Eagles, they had a total of 410 yards. And so both defenses, I would say, did not play up to expectations and allowed a ton of yards. And the Eagles, they were just able to capitalize on more opportunities than the Packers, and they were a bit more disciplined, even though they had all these turnovers. And before we get to the offense, we got to talk about our brand new kicker that we picked up from the Tennessee Titans. Of course, we cut Carlson and also Greg Joseph to bring in Narveson. It was his first NFL game, and there was some fears heading into this game that, hey, what is it going to look like? And for the most part, Narveson did pretty well. He went 3 for 4. He did miss a 40-plus yard field goal. He went 2 for 2 for extra points, and honestly, looked pretty darn good. For considering it was his first NFL game and it was on a field that wasn't that great, I'm pretty happy with it. There wasn't a lot of wobbles. The one that he missed was a doink, and I just hope that he gets better as the season progresses. And considering all the stuff coming out of camp that he's nailing 62-yarders, I'm very happy with how Narveson played, and hopefully that's one thing the Packers do not have to worry about this season. And then heading over to the offense. Let's talk about that. The Packers, as I said before, their defense put them in positions to win that football game, especially with those 2 early turnovers. Unfortunately, the Packers were 1 for 4 in the red zone. They just couldn't get things going. And when they would, they had really bad penalties that set them back. I know the refs really weren't great at all last night. There was phantom holding calls. You look at that roughing the passer call that was called on the Eagles, and that was really iffy in the pass interference. They just did not do a great job. And unfortunately, it's all about the refs for the second straight game, and there's only been 2 regular season games played. The Packers wound up having 10 penalties last night, while the Eagles had 7, so 17 accepted penalties throughout the night. So the Packers were definitely undisciplined. They were definitely rusty. LaFleur talked about this in his postgame press conference. However, looking at the offense from the other point of view, they were averaging 7.1 yards per play, which is pretty damn good. Jordan Love, 17 for 34, 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. 1 should have been a pick 6. Thankfully, the defender dropped it. And Love had a little bit of a mixed bag of a game. There was throws that he made which were great. You had a throw to Jaden Reed that was a touchdown and unfortunately got called back because there was 12 men on the field for both the offense and the defense. And some of those throws, those touch passes, were absolutely phenomenal. However, it was also evident that Jordan Love was slipping almost every single time that he dropped back. And on top of that, there was a lack of consistency that we saw last year. I'm just hoping that it's first game rust. I mean, he only played 3 snaps the entire preseason. And so I think some of this was expected. How, of course, the most important thing is that he is healthy, and you just hope that things get better throughout the year. However, looking at the running game, because that was going to be under a microscope because, of course, Aaron Jones walked this past offseason, and you brought in Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs in that first half, it was ugly. The offensive line wasn't really helping him, but he could not get anything going. And in short yardage situations, Josh Jacobs just couldn't get it done. They brought in Emmanuel Wilson at points to be a nice change of pace back, and that worked out. However, as the game went along, Josh Jacobs did do better. He finished the night 16 carries for 84 yards. And again, first week, you just got to hope that this is not going to be the usual slow start that you're going to see. And Josh Jacobs, with better blocking, is able to get things going a little bit earlier. Jaden Reed was an absolute star last night, 4 for 138, 1 touchdown, also ran for a touchdown as well. Could have had another one if it wasn't called back. And the second leading receiver was Romeo Doubs, 4 for 50 yards. And so overall, I wasn't really that upset about the loss. Of course, the Jordan Love injury is the most important thing. But the Eagles are a good football team. I knew this was going to be a tough game. And I think what I'm sitting with now is just missed opportunities. And that is the most disappointing thing. LaFleur was pissed after his press conference. And it makes sense because they were an undisciplined team, a ton of penalties, which they haven't replicated since week 8 of last year. And overall, a frustrating game and one that the Packers had multiple chances to win. When they get those turnovers, the offense has to capitalize. And I know you're going up against a good defensive front. You had Baum, who was really good. Mitchell played really well for the Eagles. And that D-line, is just damn good. They were the 10th best rushing defense last season. And so based on their play, I'm not all doom and gloom because they went against a very competitive football team, had chances to win, and unfortunately couldn't put it away. And so basically because of this loss, I don't think the sky is falling. It all depends on Jordan Love and the severity of his injury, but going up against a competitive team, it's an international game, all the factors that were going on, yeah, they were undisciplined. The Eagles capitalized on situations when the Packers didn't. They were identical in the amount of drives that they had, almost identical in yards. One team just took advantage more than the other, and unfortunately, we came out on the losing end. And so, like I said before, when there's a Jordan Love update, I will let you know. I'll be putting out a video about it later today, but let me know what you thought about the first game for the Green Bay Packers, losing to the Eagles. How we feeling? And you just gotta hope that Jordan Love is okay. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. You know, I saw me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy, all social media, see down below. A big shout and thank you to all the patrons and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you so much for watching. We're trying to get to 1 million subscribers and fill in the gap on that wall before leaving this house at the end of the season. So if you like the content, feel free to like and subscribe. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack, go.